I guess we stop here kay tungod nga nahutdan kog memory sa cellphone. Sorry for the interruption. So let's continue sa aton nga discussion regarding sa importance of animal product processing, and diri na ta nga slide siguro. So there are different terms of the meats of different domestic animals and also some in wild animals. For example, venison in deer, kay may iban nga mga countries nga utilize deer meat especially during their hunting. So for the ox or cattle 1 year old and above, that is termed as beef, whereas for the less than 1 year old, it's called as veal. So typical diet of veal calves is or predominantly made of milk. Why? It's because at this age, kasagaran ni sa ila, gatas pa man ang main diet nila, or they are on the stage of lactation. That is why their predominant diet is milk. So for the Carabao beef, it is called as Cara beef, and sometimes it was called as Cara veal. So for goat, it is termed as chevon, and for game animals, it's game meat. For horse, it is termed as chevalen, but in some localities in the Philippines, it was termed as tapang baboy. So di rin yung makitaan sa apostrophe ni. So there are other terms for certain animal meats depending on the place. So daghan kaayo ning terms sa iban. For example, sa kabayo, chevalin, common siya, pwede siya tawag as carne cavallo in some countries, and in the Philippines, tapang baboy. So for the rabbit meat, it's termed as lapan. And have you wondered kung asa man jud na-include ang rabbit meat? It can be is it considered as a poultry or a livestock meat? Actually, rabbit meat is usually generalized as poultry meat. And then in the Philippines, gina-encourage gani na siya sang Department of Agriculture nga proceed ta into, or we will gonna utilize rabbit meat as a meat substitute for poultry and pork, especially in this time nga uso na kaayo ang African swine fever. Pero there are some animal welfare advocates that are discouraging such. It's because of course sa Philippines common nga sang meat sa, or kasagaran diri ang rabbit raising is only for pets, pero in some countries actually gina-farming rabbits for their meat. Amo na gina-introduce diri, pero ang concern lang diri is ang animal welfare advocates sa Philippines. Next is for the sheep, it is called as lamb. And for the for less than 1 year old, that term is lamb meat, and then for the adults, it's called mutton. And for the pig, of course, pork, and once again, venison for the deer. So for the career opportunities in livestock or in animal products processing, actually daghan kayo tag mga career opportunities. So common sa Philippines diri is the livestock buyers, and then the butchers, or called as the matadors. So sa livestock buyers, ang ila diri nga ginabuhat is, for example, kanang sa ato diri yung pisada bitaw nga term nga palit na sila sa mga backyard farms, and then mabase sila per kilo live weight, and then mo na siyang basihan nila nga mag presyo ng ilang baboy. And then also ang iban diri ga buy and sell, for example, palito nilang baboy at ng smaller price, and then ibaligya nila at a higher price, which is medyo ni siya somewhat dili angay, kay of course luoy kaayo ning mga backyard farmers nga kung ingani nga method especially nga mahal na kaayo ang feeds. So moingon ta nga palito na rin ako 5K, whereas ang capacity unta ni, or pwede pa dyan mabaligya as 6K to 7K if pisada nga method ang gamiton naton. Next is the federal inspector and meat graders or quality control supervisor. So kasagaran ni is more on ni sila somewhat sa mga large scale nga mga slaughterhouses, or kung sa aton pa they are termed as meat inspectors. So kasagaran diri nga gaano diri are the veterinarians and also animal science graduates nga nag-specialize or may significant training sa meat graders or meat inspection. And isa pod nga ano diri is butchers. But did you know nga kanang mga butchers, especially professional butchers, ang isa nila ka minimum requirement is just must be an animal science major. Yes, may ara gina nga mga companies nga require nga minimum qualification should be an animal science major. So mao na siya. So selection of animals prior to slaughter. Mao ning gingon nato nga dili jud ta magpataka og pili sa animal nga atong ihawon. There are certain parameters nga atong i-consider sa pag-select sang animals before naton sila ihawon. So number 1 is the sex. So of course male and female. Ngano kinahanglan jud nato na i-consider? It's because nga ang each sex, especially if they're castrated or not, nagadepende da ang ilang nga quality of meat. For example, barrow. So what do you mean by barrow? Of course, they are the term for the castrated male pigs. So barrow and gills have no distinct differences in meat quality. That's correct. Kay ang big deal lamang gud diri sa baboy is kaning mga uncastrated nga mga male animals or what we call as boar. Kay of course when they are at more than 7 months of age or at least 7 months of age, dira na mo gawas ang boar taint or ang specific baho sang kanang mga butakal. So that is why once butakal na and then slaughter nimo na, baho jud ng ilang karne. So that is why ang kasagaran ginahimo sa kaning mga karne sang butakal is gina-process nila into chorizo. Kay during the processing matanggal mo ganda ang baho, pero usahay na joy uban nga mga chorizo nga naagya po ng baho sang butakal nga baboy, especially kung wala siya kanang at the age of maturity na siya. But there is a certain method nga pwede matanggal ang baho sang butakal, that is to castrate the boars. But of course it will be a laborious and then somewhat risky. It's because nga ang spermatic cord sang boar is big enough nga once masayop ra ka og incise dira nga wala nimo malagit og tarong ang blood vessel, may tendency nga puswak lang jud ang puswak ang dugo until to the point nga mapatay ang boar. So it needs skills to do such thing as castration in mature boars. So muna siya, meat from uncastrated hogs are fatter than their male and uncastrated male counterparts of the same age. So take note, sa mga castrated, mas tambok sila compared sa females. So meat from pregnant animal is low in quality. Why? It's because of fishy odor. Of course, kung pregnant ang baboy, dili pud siya angay slaughter. Why? It's because of some hormonal disturbances or there are certain hormonal alterations during that stage which affects the meat quality of pigs. So no na siya. And in cattle, meat from bull is generally less tender and lower in overall acceptability than that of steers. So take note guys ha. Once magtikatigulang ang animal, mas magtikabati ang ilang meat quality. That is why maka-observe mo kani mga tigulang animal bisag unsa nga species kinahanglan pa jud pabukalan og tarong. Kay kung dili pa jud na pabukalan inigluto mo radyo mo nakaon og bubble gum. Tinud-anay jud na. It's because ang tenderness nila is nag-lesser. So once mo lesser ang tenderness, gahi jud na siya. Next is the age. Ang recommended age for swine is 6 to 12 months nga pwede ihawon. 3 years or younger sa cattle and carabao, and about a year old for goats and other small ruminants. So meat from older animals tend to become darker, tougher, fatter, and poorer in quality than meat from younger animals. However, it is flavorful, has a high water binding and emulsion capacity, which is associated with high degree of marbling. So, mo na siya, mas darker ang sa older animals and poorer in quality as compared sa tenderness sa young animals which is mas nami. Pero mas lami ang ilang karne and nindot ang marbling. So, what is marbling? That is termed as the intramuscular fat. So, makabantay mo, for example, mukhaon mo gano, mga free-range chicken versus the broiler. Of course, sa broiler chicken, 28 days naman na kasagaran or 28 to 30 days depende sa farm na kasasagikan. So, technically, in terms of tenderness, tender jud ang iya ka manok. Kay, of course, basihan nato sa tinanay or sa natural setup, piso pa man lang jud na sila. Whereas sa mga native chickens, though gahi siya, pero lami kaayo og lasa. So, mo na siya ang pros and cons sa meat in relative to age. And the most important quality factor which change age is the tenderness. Yes, beyond 42 months of age, meat from young and old animals is already equal in terms of tenderness. So in general, meat from old animals is juicier than the meat of the young ones. But in terms of tenderness, mas tender ang sa young compared sa old animals. Pork follows the same trend as beef, so very little change on tenderness, of course, after 11 months of age. So, ang tenderness ng pig, naagihapon ang tenderness before 11 months of age, pero once maglapas na siya or mag 1 year old na siya, diha na magkalahi-lahi. Next is the size of the animal. So, the recommended slaughter weight of animals for fresh meat, retailing, and intact meat processing. So, 80 to 100 kilograms for hogs, mo na siyang nindot, and then 300 to 450 grams for cattle and carabao. So, mao nang makabantay mo sa baboy, kasagaran gina-slaughter is dagko dyan na siya. And then katong mga gagmay, pero kasagaran ba yung ginagamit nga gagmay nga baboy, especially at 3 months of age, kung reach ng desired ng mga 50 to 60 kilograms, mao na siyang ginagamit as lechon. Why? Nga naman, kinanglan man dyan og gamay nga baboy. Of course, i-consider po di mo ang daway ginaluto ang lechon. Kay kung dako ang baboy, aside na mahugmak na siya kung kawayan ang gamiton ninyo o bisag tubo gani, muluntay man ang tubo, of course, i-consider sad ninyo ang kabagaon sang karne inig lechon ninyo. So, mo na siya nga kinahanglan nga gamay ang baboy nga gamiton during sa paghimo sa lechon. And then sa cattle and carabao, of course, ang desirable na is 300 to 450 kilograms kay gamatter man pud na ang weight kay man. Of course, kung liwang ang baka, maka-expect ka dira na ang intramuscular fats sang baka would be poor compared sa katong naa sa desirable weight. And take note, kung nubo ang intramuscular fat or marbling sa baka, bati pud na og lasa. And then within these weight ranges, the retail cut yield from the different livestock is optimum. Yes. So health. Take note, students, only healthy animals shall be considered for slaughter, not the sick ones unless you are going to kill yourself kung kaunon mo na. Kaya nga, there are some diseases in animals that maybe ang iban dira maybe safe gihapon kaunon, but most nga or some of the diseases in animals can be contagious or can be transmissible to man, and that is what we call zoonotic diseases. So for example, bird flu. So mukaon kag karne sa manok nga sick tapos na bird flu. Oh, God bless. And then of course, ang issue karon sa African swine fever. The question is, okay ra ba kauno sa tawo ang karne sa baboy nga naay ASF? Yes, okay raw. Dili man ka magka ASF ang tao. Joke raman tong katong meme nga si Harry Roque daw positive for ASF. That's only a joke. So ayaw jud ninyo to i-take og seriously. So mao na siya, nakadepende sa disease. So para safe na lang tang tanan, just only slaughter from healthy animals. How about sir katong mga napiang ragkalit? For example, during the travel, napiang ang baboy or ang baka. Of course, if mapiang na siya ang animal, dito na siya musulod sa ginatawag naton nga emergency slaughter. They are healthy but tungod sa ilang condition nga napiang sila, kinahanglan sila iihaw as soon as possible kay para nga dili na pud para mayus pa ang ilang karne. Kay once padugaya pa na ninyo, of course there will be a physiological changes and also it will affect the meat quality. So mas mayo na lang ihawon na lang. And that also nga kung na-consider natong meat quality, of course ang welfare pud sa animal nga alam nga naman paantuson pa nimo kay kana laging ugma pang schedule sang ihaw nila nya karon na pi ang alangan naman nga hulton pa nimong ugma, of course ihawon na lang jud nimo, maluoy pud din tawon ka sa baboy or sa any animal da. Unhealthy animals must be first be treated to become normal prior to slaughter. Yes, mao jud ang kinahanglan, pero kasagaran dira walang takahibaw ginaunsa na nila. And then meat from unhealthy animals is poor in quality and is not recommended. Yes. And then question, sir, kana bitong mga kanang mga karnis nga dili man pud makatakod, ang ilang balatian is dili makatakod sa tawo, okay na ba kauno na? As an animal or as a future agriculturist, ang inyo lang jud na ma-response no? As an professional, dili jud mi mo recommend nga mukaon tagikan sa mga sick animals. Pero kung mukaon man jud mo, inyo na jud nag self-will. Basta niingon rami nga dili siya recommended. Mao jud nang atong or most suggested nga pwede naton itubag sa ila. So meat yield. The average dressing percentage of swine in the Philippines head off is about 69% and the total trim blind cuts amount is 36% of the live weight. So timan-an jud na nato ang ilang meat yield kay ngano man diri pod nato basihan kung pila pod ang ipresyo nato kung mopalit ta og baboy in terms of live weight. Kay of course pag mag-ingon nga 100 kilos ang atong baboy or 120 kilos ang akong baboy nga ibaligya, do not expect nga ang karne pod sang baboy ana is 120 kilos. That is why nato gitawag nga dressing percentage para ma-assess naton kung pila jud ka percent ang meat sa kana nga animal. So mo na siyang point dito sa meat yield. So beef and cara beef have similar average dressing percentage of 48% but differ in total lean yield with 34% and 33% respectively. So mo na siya. And goats on the other hand have 43% dressing percentage and 27% total lean yield. So for example sa kambing bay na kay nakitaan wow 50 kilos nga kilos ang kanding. So do not expect nga ang karne pod sa kanding ana is 50 kilos pod. So you assume 43%. So most probably ang kilo ya lang na sa dressing percentage would only be 20 kilos and then iles pa jud nato sa leanness lang sang karne. So most probably 10 to 15 kilos lang jud na ang karne sang kanding. So mao jud nang i-consider pod nato. And then fatness, of course, sikin sa babay mukaon og tambok nga karne no. And then amping putaan na sa kanang mga mga baboy nga puro upa or rice bran ang ginapakaon, expect na jud kaana nga tambok jud na ang baboy or puro tambok na. Of course, kung tambok ang karne, dili pud na lami. O murag lami siya kung in terms of bahon pero suway daw kaon og tambok nga karne or kanunay na lang tambok tan-awa nato kung dili jud ka magbati og high blood. So mo na siya, that's only a joke. So for comminuted beef and pork products, 30 to 40% fat seems to be most acceptable in terms of flavor, tenderness, juiciness, and overall acceptability. So tapos na ta sa selection or consideration in selection of animals prior to slaughter. So rules and regulation ng ato next topic which will be discussed in the future days. Hopefully ma-discuss na ko ni Onya or ugma. So we're going to regarding sa meat inspection code, dili na ako ni siya ma-discuss sa prelim or sa module 1 but I will going to discuss that or i-associate ang discussion sa midterm especially on antemortem and postmortem inspection. Pero ang Animal Welfare Act will be our next topic, John. So that's it. If you have any questions, you can drop a comment or you can PM me para mas caught up gid ang akong attention. So hopefully daghan mo nakatunan and God bless sa tanan. hopefully this will reinforce your learning. Thank you.